Hi guys, welcome back to the Holy Wackos podcast. My name is Mariah, this is Zach, and unfortunately this is Collin.
This is going to be my first and last time here.
Probably. We've known each other for so many years that you've never been in my room before.
What? Really?
I've never been here.
Yeah.
How long have you guys known each other?
Well, it's only been 2022, but it feels like an eternity. It feels
Wait,
like...
really? That was only 2 years ago?
We've only known each other for a little over 2 years, and it feels like 5 or 10.
I can't stop looking at that screen, I'm not going to lie.
You can't stop looking at the video of us talking.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are on YouTube for the video version, and then you can look up the Holy Wackos podcast website and see all the other platforms we're on. And learn more about the podcast.
You have a website?
This is a platform?
Yeah. This is not a platform itself, but we have a website. I told you this.
Well, you didn't tell me you had a website.
Yeah.
When?
I'm pretty sure I sent it to you.
No.
Did I not? Uh-oh.
We have a website.
Hey, we have a
Wow,
website,
we have
Collin.
a website now.
Wow, yeah, we have a website. Just
Yeah.
so you know. Anyways. We're going to be talking about Collin's testimony. Well, more so Collin will be talking about his
I'll be
testimony.
talking about it. Wait, so I did see your last episode. You're getting baptized. How did that go?
So it happened yesterday, and it was really emotional, and some creepy experience happened where I found out one person came in and videotaped me and then left. And I don't know her. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone just came in and videotaped your baptism and left?
Yep. Also, if you're listening or watching, I don't know you, but stop.
Bring the footage back.
I don't know you.
Wait, you only stayed for yours?
Pulled up, walked in. Dink.
So,
walked out.
one of my coworkers was there yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And she sat directly behind her, commented on her bag that she had, her purse that she had.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I sat in the baptism horse trough, because I got baptized in a horse trough, she stood up, videotaped it, and as soon as I stepped out and started walking into the fellowship hall, she stood up and left.
That is kind of weird.
Right? And I don't know anybody that matches her description. Like, at all.
What was the description they gave?
She wore glasses and she had reddish brown hair. Like, more on the reddish side, though. And I was like, I don't know anybody like that.
Huh. Oh, well.
And then I was talking to Ashton, and he's like, you guys a stalker? And I was like, dude, I'm not even popular.
You are now on the Holy Wackos podcast.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We got, 15 consecutive viewers.
Hey, 10 consecutive viewers.
10?
Probably less. I don't know. Oh, I just realized I never got the podcast Discord made because I've been so busy and I have other stuff going on.
But you got a website.
We got a website though. Yeah.
The water was really cold yesterday morning, though, and I stepped in there. It was really cold, and I walked towards the
in the
front.
baptism
Yeah.
thing.
I walked towards the front, and Roy, after I sat down, Roy's like, you're cold, huh? And I was like, it's not that bad. And I was like, it's cold, yes, but it's not that bad. I thought I was going to cry a lot more than I did. And that was weird, because I'm, really emotional.
Kiana started crying whenever you got into there.
Yeah. I know. She sent me the sweetest, long message yesterday afternoon.
That's awesome.
I'm going to kick her.
That's what friends are for.
I get cute aggression with
This
her.
is on recording, by the way.
I know. Kiana, if you're watching this, I love you, but I will kick you. And she knows this. I threatened 4 times yesterday. I was like, I just want to lick your face.
Mariah, stop. This is a podcast. A Christian podcast.
Well, I'm not saying anything inappropriate.
Read the Bible. Pick up the Bible right now before we get
You
into
just
the...
said you were going to lick her face 4 times.
Pick up the dang gum Bible and read some scripture before we get into Colin's testimony.
It's not even that bad.
It's weird.
If you've known me for a while...
Well, we are the Wackos,
If
after
you've
all.
known me for a while, you know that I have said way worse.
Okay, I know, but that's not the point here. The point is that they can't hear you because you're not projecting your voice.
Oh, do I need... You guys want some ASMR again?
Go do your Bible ASMR, Mariah.
I have nothing nice to say. You guys continue. I'm just going to be reading this.
Read it out loud, madam.
What if I don't want to?
Alright, Collin, so you want to talk about your testimony?
Yeah, I'm a bit stumped by the words I just heard, but, yeah, I mean...
I just realized the microphone's not turned up very high. I'm
Oh, well,
sorry,
then maybe
everybody.
they did not hear.
They probably
licking.
didn't.
Wait, if it's
Okay.
on 0, does that mean it's...
No, if it's on 0, it's on, like, default, basically. Well, like, default max.
default max?
Kinda. I just have it on 10 dB.
But huh?
Decibels.
If it's on 0, though, isn't it? It's...
Dude, I don't know. I don't know the meaning of these things. I just know how to make it louder.
But if 0 is the max, and then you put it on 10...
Well, it's not the max, but it's loud.
Okay, but 10's like...
Okay. Okay. I could make it go to 20.
Make it go to 20.
I'm not going to make it to go to 20.
I think you should make it go to 20.
No. Collin. This is going to be a long podcast, huh? Do you have no scripture to share, Mariah?
Oh, I read it silently.
Alright, what do we got?
Alright, Colin's going to read.
Oh, gosh.
There's Bible tabs, so it'll be easy to flip around.
Yeah, that throws me off.
That throws you off?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Actually. Hang on. Zach, do you want to?
Sure, I'll read something.
Hold on.
We're in Genesis right now.
I thought we were in your room.
Okay, Mariah.
Wow. That was
Mariah. Mariah.
I'm really living out the wacky today.
We started this recording session almost 10 minutes ago. I'm gonna have to cut out the beginning because we were just talking.
Please God, cut out the licking.
I'm not gonna cut that out.
I love Kiana.
I will not be on here again after the licking. I'm really sorry. I thought it was an 11.
So how are you, Mariah?
I'm fine. How you doing?
I lost my wallet.
I know.
Oh, this is not the same Bible.
This
Okay.
is ESV.
Yeah. This is Hebrews 2:8. Now, in putting everything in subjection to him, he left nothing outside his control. At present, we do not yet see everything in subjection to him, but we see him who, for a little while, was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. For it was fitting that he, for whom and by whom all things exist, in bringing many sons to glory, should make the founder of their salvation perfect through suffering. For he who sanctifies and those who are sanctified all have one source. That is why he is not ashamed to call them brothers.
That's awesome. You just slammed that down by the mic.
I didn't slam it, but it probably sounds like I slammed it. Okay, so where do you want me to start?
Your testimony. Just give your testimony, dude. How did you find God?
So my family, my grandfather is a pastor. He's been a pastor since he got out of the Vietnam War. So the Bible was always something that was taught in our family. He's a pastor. He's been a pastor since then till now. He lives in Florida. But the Bible was always something that was taught in my family. I think with my family specifically, through my mom and dad, they weren't as... they didn't teach it to us on the basis of, would you say, daily nurturing or just nurturing at all with it. Until I was about 13. And then my dad became a bit more outspoken about it. And I think probably he found his faith better in that way. It was more strong. He culminated it to a higher regard. But I mean, at that time, I struggled with a lot of loneliness. We were homeschooled growing up, and because of my mom and dad's work schedules, me and my older brother were home a lot. So, wrestling with that, and for a while, I thought it was because there was something wrong with me, but I've found that the fellowship and community of people is how would you say? Sanity isn't something that you have, it's something that's given to you by others. So that's kind of how you orient yourself in the world, is by being around other people. And so I started doing community theater when I was 14. Not because I wanted to do it, but because I thought, like, well, I have nothing better to do, and I really don't want to do this, but it's better to just get out of my house. And so at that time, I mean, I still kind of dealt with it because I was afraid of being open to people, because I never had that, I was never given that opportunity at home that much. My parents, I don't know how do you say, it's not that they weren't necessarily open, but they weren't necessarily open to vulnerable topics. So it didn't give a place for at least me and my older brother to be vulnerable about things. And so I dealt with that a bit, and then when I was about not 15 yet, but going into 15, probably the back half of when I was 14, I had like pretty bad depression and suicidal thoughts. And which I think in part because suicide is the single most selfish thing you can do. And, well, maybe not the single most, but it's certainly up there. But usually it's predicated on you have wants that aren't fulfilled, and you're trying to fulfill them in improper ways. At least that's how it was in my life. So, not knowing how to fill that, not knowing how to place myself in a proper structure and other people in priorities, just completely crashed any sort of idea of how to live life that I had. So I wrestled with that for a few months, and then I mean, in it too, I became selfish because I had a problem that wasn't fixed, a problem that I wasn't comfortable saying to other people. And so it just got to a point where I was getting more and more selfish, and by the time of the summer of 2020, actually, COVID year. Yeah, that would be, I think it was January 9th. I just got to a point where I was like, I'm done with this, and I prayed, and I was sincere. And when you pray now, you don't pray asking for, God's not a genie. You don't pray asking for stuff. You don't pray. I would say a proper prayer is you...
Do you need the Bible to look up anything?
No.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think about how to word it. It's you submitting to your own arrogance. Admitting that you are probably arrogant to how to fix it. You're probably ignorant to how to fix it. And that there's a better way to handle it. And so you pray that I don't know what to do. I don't have the ability to do this, but I know there's a better way of doing it. And that's what I did. And I was like, wow, however this needs to go, however you want to do this, God, please just do what you need to do. I'm willing to submit to any of it. And that came in the form of about 6 hours later. My parents just found out like that. And like just on a whim, boom. And we had a conversation, and then from then was kind of how that whole journey started. But it really just came from that. That they found out that I was having like these problems, these struggles. They always knew something was up, but they couldn't pinpoint it. Yeah. So you can tell, like, when your kid's acting weird. I mean, you've known them their entire life. So they could put a pin on the board and go, this was it. And so that happened June 10th at like 7 in the morning. And then from then, my dad asked me to read the book of John. Read the book of John. And I was amazed at my, I guess you would say, belief in what I was reading.
Yeah.
And then it just went from there, really. But
How old were you?
I was... I'd be 15.
15. Okay.
15, so that was...
Huh?
Yeah, I was 15.
You were 15.
That's correct.
Beginning of 2022.
No, 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
You were 15.
COVID year, yeah.
Oh, okay. My brain lagged.
Yeah. I think I said the COVID year, but...
Yeah, my bad.
You know, I mean, and just... That's kind of what started it. That's kind of what made me go, okay, there's probably something more to this, and there's probably something outside of myself that's far better to put time into.
Yeah.
Like, not just the Bible, but just in general. It's like, wow, I'm not the only thing I need to be working on, you know? So, I mean, I guess that's how it started.
Where did it go from there?
Gosh, where's it gone from there?
Like, how did you strengthen your faith, like, getting that firm foundation established? Because you just mentioned how you read the book of John, and that basically gave you different realizations. But, obviously, 2020 to 2024, that's a long time. So, what would you say has kept you in that faith? Because, obviously, you've grown in faith. Because I knew you back in 2022, that's when we met. And from then to now, you've grown a lot in faith, and I can tell. So, what kept you in faith, and how did you grow in faith?
So, from there, I just read the Bible, and then would listen to stuff on YouTube that I would try and better explain things that I didn't know. And then that kind of culminated to 2021, I guess it would be August. And I had a strong urge on my heart. It was like, you need to do something. And I'm like, well, I need to do something. Like, what does that mean? And I would say it's a still voice, but it's not a voice and not a verbal telling. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, exactly.
And it's like, I know that, like, your conscience, whatever you want to say, like, your conscience could be God and God could be your conscience, you know. Telling you need to do something that's not just, go to the store or, you know. Like,
No, you can differentiate it.
Right, yeah. And I was like, you need to do something. And I'm like, really? So I just prayed earnestly for about a week. And so after I had developed Seeking God in June of 2020, we finished a theater show, and I had a bad experience with something that happened. And I remember saying to Ethan, I'm like, I will never do this crap again. Like, I'm done. It wasn't the theater that made me mad. It was, like, interactions with some people. But I was like, I will never do this again. And so, I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And it was, you need to go do the next theater show. And I thought, okay, sure. So I text my buddy Connor, who was doing theater.
Connor!
I was like, hey man,
I love Connor.
when's the next theater show? You know, I've had the sudden urge to get back into it. And he said, oh, it's this Monday.
What day was it when he told you?
Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You had little to no time
And
to
I was
prepare.
like, oh, really? Okay. So, we're doing a song? Like, what is it? And he said I'd do a monologue of whatever. It had to be like 60 seconds, 90 seconds. And we were doing the show Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And
I love that show.
It was a cool show when we did it. But so he's like, okay, we're doing Sleepy Hollow. It's in 2 days. So if you want to do it, you know, this is what you got to do. I was like, okay. So I had to make something up in 2 days. I did a monologue from Up, actually. Have you seen Up? Like,
Of course
I've
I've seen Up.
seen Up.
People have told me I look like Doug.
the dog?
Yes.
Dog?
I wouldn't say
Yes.
you look like him, but you do kind of act like him. I think we've talked about this.
I think we have.
That you look... I don't think you
Ethan,
look like
your
a
brother, Ethan, told me. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. It was either him or somebody else, but I have been told that.
Wow.
I don't know if Ethan told me that, but it's something he would say.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't think
Is
you look like a
that how
dog.
you perceive yourself though?
No.
Do you like look it up and you go, "That's me"?
I'm a dog.
I'm the dog.
Do you
I
say?
got that dog
Do you
in me.
randomly say squirrel?
Yeah.
Do you actually?
Every once in a blue moon.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get back on the
I'll be messing
subject
with
because I don't
somebody.
want to talk about squirrels.
Squirrel!
Yep. There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is.
And so I did the monologue, whatever, and it was like Sunday night. I'd already had it down, and I was like, okay. And then I just prayed again. I'm like, why am I doing this? Can I get a why? And
Why?
again, like it was like a still voice, but it's not a verbal voice, and it was like, you're gonna help somebody. I was like, okay. It's like just one. It's like you're gonna help someone. And so you answer the call to adventure, and I'm like, all right, well, here we go. And then I did the audition, and then so that week, so the following weekend, so Monday and then that Saturday, we went on a vacation somewhere, so I was going to miss the first rehearsal. And then the day of the first rehearsal, when we finally got back, my parents said they were divorcing. And I was like, what? It's like that with any family, I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But, I mean, especially at that time, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to put focus to it. And then that bomb dropped. And I thought, oh, my gosh. What am I going to do? And so I sat there and prayed about it, and I was like, okay, what can I focus on here that's going to help me get out of this? Or, like, just not succumb to the immediate emotions. And it was that show, and it was that call of like, okay, I need to help somebody, I need to help somebody, I need to help somebody. But even then, I mean, it was like week after week, and I didn't know who it was. I didn't have an idea, and I didn't try and pinpoint it because I knew that would be foolish. But just every day, I mean, you put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
With everybody. So I did that for weeks, and then the show opened late October, like going into Halloween's, because I think the day before Halloween was our last show. And it ended. And I didn't feel like I helped anybody. And I was like, uh-oh. Something's a problem here. And I didn't necessarily feel like I had failed, but it was like, okay, I just don't see it. And so the show ended, and we moved from Manchester, where the theater is, to Murfreesboro. And for about 2 months was just mental toil for me, because I was at home for all of it.
Yeah.
Finishing school up. And to the point where I didn't think I was going to do the following show, which started in January. And then I ended up doing it, and I was like, well, got nothing better to do, so I'll go up and do it. And that was actually how I met Zach. So the first day I walked in there, and it was Brennan and him, and Brennan,
my cousin,
comes up, yeah, and he says, hey, this is my cousin Zach. And immediately I was like, I love this guy. Like, really, like, I was like, oh, he's great.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And we were so they had the audition, so they had 2 days. One was dancing and reading. Yeah, you remember dance?
I remember dance.
That was really the first memory I had with you. Was me and him were right next to each other doing dance auditions.
You were behind me to the right, and I was in front of you.
I thought we were side by side.
No.
Okay, you want to tell the story of the dancing then?
Okay, so he was behind me, and I'm in front of him. And I noticed he was behind me, so I do, like, the 360 turn.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
I mean, I don't remember exactly which dance, but I just remember we were by each other.
Oh.
And we were like, oh man, like, I don't know if I'm messing this up or not. And Zach said something funny. I don't even necessarily remember what it was, but he said something funny, and I immediately thought, like, oh, I like this guy.
I don't even know what I said, but man, that's a major ego boost.
Yeah, he said something that was funny, and immediately then I'm like, okay, like, maybe this show will go pretty good. And
then the show went horror from now on. That was one of the best shows I've ever been in.
The show itself was pretty grand. But,
oh, yeah. And the people in that show were grand.
So, me and my buddy Connor got a lot closer during that show.
Yeah?
And we started doing a youth group. Remember?
Yeah, the youth group that we went to.
And I would go to his house after youth group. And some nights it was okay, but other nights, I mean, I was just, like, broken. Like, from the divorce. Because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And anytime I would go in there, I mean, Connor would, you know, of course, willingly oblige and give his time and his effort, but it was really in the form of his mom talking me through a lot of it. And I mean, there was one night we didn't get back till like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember they went in their room to grab like the TV and whatever, because they're taking the TV and then they were bringing it to their guest house.
Yeah.
We were going to stay at the guest house. And
I haven't been to that guest house in so long.
their dog was on the floor, and I was petting the dog, and his mom was sitting on the couch. And you could tell she had had a day. Like, it was like, this is a day. I'm waiting to see when my children get home to make sure they're safe. And then they have, like, you know, someone else's kids, so I don't want to, you know, be bad in that regard of not paying attention to this other parent's child.
Yeah.
And she was like, how are you doing? And I just broke.
I hate that.
Yeah.
When you're already on the verge of it and someone asks, hey, how are you? And you just lose it.
Yeah. I mean, it was constant for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was constantly on the verge. And so then she just asked me, she's like, hey, you could tell she was just mustering up the courage to ask. Like, she was that tired. She was that drained. And she was like, how are you doing? And I just broke. She's like, what's the matter? And we just sat and talked. And like that is a moment that, like, I'll always remember, like, very distinctly, every detail about it, of someone like really taking the time, because people take their time, and you know, they're very kind and charitable and generous. That's how it's been for me in my life and my relationships for the most part. But when you can tell someone is absolutely just drained and like done with the day, and she chose it. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, well, I want to. Like, she chose it when she would much rather go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
She sat there and talked to me for like 30, 45 minutes. And I think that was honestly probably the beginning of that healing process.
Yeah.
And there's a Catholic bishop who says that that's not an intellect of an Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas was a philosopher who defended the faith. He said it's not the intellect of an Aquinas who can nurture somebody to fullness. It's the love of a Mother Teresa. It's someone who will willingly put their time when they don't want to, and their generosity to someone. And that's certainly how that was in that moment. I had a lot of people telling me, like, oh, you know, it's in God's plan. It's in, it's all going to work out. It's good. It's true. It doesn't mean that it's insincere in any way, but when you have that, when you see that interaction of someone who really is choosing to take that time with you, that was kind of that healing process. And even through that show, I got to help a few people who are having a rough time, and I mean, it was kind of cool. Like, even in the midst of chaos, you are able to help people.
Yeah, I think that speaks a lot about your character.
Yeah, well, I mean, even then, I don't know. I mean, even I think it's the people around me that have sort of lifted me up in my life. Like,
Yeah.
I think it would be foolish for me to say, oh, I did this myself, or I have this great character. I don't think it's that at all. I think that the people who I've surrounded myself with and the people who have given their time to me have formed me in hopefully a good way,
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. I was telling someone actually like last week, it's like I am an ant who stands on the shoulders of giants. Like I am here at the building of every other person in my life who has sacrificed for stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then even from that, I think the thing that has really helped me grow in my faith is the admittance of, like, admitting my arrogance and my ignorance and just willing to be wrong. Yeah. Willing to say, I don't know. I mean, you can't learn anything unless you're willing to say, I don't know.
Yeah. There's
not a whole lot more annoying on a person when they act like they know. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, just really, like, it's not great. So just willing to say, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't have it all figured out. And that's helped me find truth. Like, that's helped me find truths. And the radical idea in the Bible is that the truth seeks you. If you're willing to allow yourself to kind of be a fool, Yeah. Willing to say, I don't know. Willing to say that I don't have it figured out. And it's applied spiritually, that's applied in any way in my life. It's the admittance of I don't have it all figured out and willing to submit to truth.
Yeah. I remember one time I was having a rough time and we were talking on I was driving home. I don't know what you were doing, but we talked about how God is like the lamp to our feet.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And that is just something that kind of like boggled my mind, because it's like, why lamp to my feet? Because I want to know all these things. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know the future. And eternity to me was so scary, because it's like I don't see it. Mm-hmm. I don't know it. Like, with our life on earth, it's finite. We know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Maybe not know what will happen.
Right.
But we know it's temporary. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to, like, imagine eternity.
Yeah.
And we're not really made to comprehend that. So then learning about God being a lamp for our feet, that's really comforting.
Right, yeah. Well, I think that even helps, like, knowing the character of God and the people around you helps you get through tough times.
Yeah.
Knowing that, I mean, you don't know the result. It's kind of the lamp analogy where it says that God is a lamp for my feet. It's like, it's kind of a weird description, just my feet. Show you where to go, like what direction to go where you can see, but he's not going to show you the end. But because you know his character and you know the character of the ones around you, that you can submit and trust that everything will be okay. If you're willing to submit.
Yeah.
Some people don't. And it's like, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going your way, but look at what you're doing,
Because it's like doing the same thing over and over again. And
expecting different results.
Right,
the definition of insanity.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I quote that to a lot of people and they don't get it. And I was like, I seen something like during November when I was going through the really rough time, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, why are you keep on holding on to the snake that's biting you and then wondering why you're hurting? And I'm like, because I love the snake. And it's like, okay, but the snake doesn't love you. So let it go. And I'm like, it's that simple. And they're like, yes, it is. Logically, yeah, it is. Emotionally, no, it's not.
Right.
Spiritually, God's like, hey, I know this is what you want so badly, but I have something way better for you. Like, you think this is good? Girl, you don't even know the half of it. I haven't even given you a quarter yet. I'm going to sprinkle some sprinkles on that. Like, hold on. It's okay. And I found out recently with the stuff that's going on with my mom and the whole hospice situation that just because I'm having a rough season in my life, I know that you go through the roughest times before you get so richly blessed. And I just keep on reminding myself that while this is awful. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot better. And like when I'm around like everybody at church and I'm around you,
Aww.
like I get small glimpses and reminders of the reassurance of hope that I have in people. And because you guys in my church family have been more positive for me than you guys will ever know, and more than I can ever express verbally. Like it's a deep spiritual appreciation that I cannot verbalize.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's two things. One is when you're talking about, holding on to the snake that's biting you, and you're like, I love it. It's, I mean, I found, and sometimes, yeah, like it's other people, it's just calamity has been brought on your life, but a lot of times I've noticed that a lot of the problems I have, I'd probably say most, is my fault in some way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I hear a lot of people say, like, well, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And it's like, do you really think that you're just being plagued by life?
So you can ask him, and especially if you talk to Kiana,
Yeah.
she knows I'm big on accountability.
Yeah,
And I actually listened to this podcast where their main premise for a very long time was accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually had a line of shirts that they made out that says, "Are you the problem?" Because I genuinely love
It's
going
like,
around.
probably.
I love asking people that.
Yeah.
My most recent ex's brother, a lot of the time, could never admit fault. And when
Yeah.
he did, it's everybody else's problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand you're having a hard time, but the man in the mirror is only going to, you can only run so far for
Right,
yourself.
yeah.
And he didn't want to hear it. And I'm like, I get it, dude. I get it. Nobody wants to admit they're wrong. I was like, it's a big stigma for women not wanting to admit they're wrong, but I have no problem with it. I was like, I'd rather be wrong and admit that I'm wrong so we can move on and talk about it
Right, yeah.
and get through it rather than stay stagnant and stuck.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It's a pet peeve. I don't like it when people are like, I never do anything wrong. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I bet. How's your life going?
I'm like,
It's awful, really.
oh, I'm sorry. This is from the same person that used to play with Ouija boards. I was like, okay, dude. I was like,
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It's rough, but I mean, like, the second part is just that community
yeah.
aspect. And, like, what you have, I mean, it's common unity. That's community. And for you guys to have that commonality of you all are trying to aim at something higher and that's best for you. Well, when a bunch of people do that, if you're really intentionally doing that, you're going to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, in every aspect, that helps.
And the older you get to, you can tell when people are being genuine about stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear the sincerity in their voice, especially when they come up to you and they know that something's wrong just by the way you're carrying yourself. You don't even have to speak a single word to them. They're just like, hey, I just want to let you know, I know you're going through something and I've been praying for you.
Yeah.
I had that happen to me and I'm like, how did you know? And they're like, you just know. And I'm like, yeah. And I get it.
Yeah.
Because I see people, and maybe it's, you can call it hypervigilance or trauma response, whatever you want to, but I honestly believe that's God just being like, hey, you know this certain person. You don't know what they're going through, so you need to pray for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I've had that same instance for about 5 years now.
Yeah.
With somebody. You
Yeah.
can tell.
You
like,
can.
ooh.
I cannot, like, I'm not in contact with one person anymore, right? That I used to talk to every day.
Yeah.
And I can tell that spiritually something's going on, and they just have a lot of burden that they don't talk to anybody about.
Yeah.
And there's not been one day since we haven't talked that I don't pray for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, something's going on. And I was like, I don't know what it is, but it's not good.
Right, and they won't talk about it. They won't say it to anybody.
They won't, yeah. And I'm like, you don't, I hate the stigma that is put on young men about you guys having to be so stoic. Like, I think that a man should be stoic to an extent, but not to the extent where it's, doing damage emotionally.
Can you define stoic?
So,
like, don't care mentality of, like, I got this.
yeah, like the big macho man, like, nothing ever bothers me, like, I don't need to talk about how I'm feeling and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? To an extent, yeah, dude, I get it. You're masculine, do your thing. You should maintain a certain level of masculinity. But when it becomes that toxic masculinity of what I've fallen kind of into myself is I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
That's when it gets dangerous.
Yeah.
Be well equipped, but don't act like you have all the tools. And,
Yeah, it goes back to not knowing everything.
Right, yeah.
And I can't stand it. It really bothers me when I meet a young man, and especially when they're younger than me, and they're like, well, so-and-so did me wrong, so I'm not going to talk to anybody, and I'm just going to, close my heart off. And I was like, I get it.
Good luck. Yeah.
I was like, I get it. I've been there. I know you're jaded and I know you're hurt. And I'm so sorry you never had anybody to talk to, but you're safe.
Yeah.
In Christ. I hope you know that. He loves you. And I know that's hard if you don't believe, but when you finally hit rock bottom, he'll be there.
Yeah. And a lot of people need to hit that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I mean, most people do because they just don't want to admit the arrogance of that they don't know, or the ignorant, well, both. Probably the arrogance of, I know this is bad, but I'm not asking for help and I don't want to change.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where you have to hurt to a certain deal until you'll finally like, okay, well, this sucks. The alternative sucks, but it sucks less. So
yeah,
we're gonna try this now.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
For me, it's and you can ask Kiana. I don't go to people with my burdens. I don't. I feel like I am the burden a lot of the time because of how I was raised. So I go to God with a lot of my problems, and I'm finding myself. It's easier now than it has been.
You're right. Yeah.
But in the past, I'm like, no. I'm like, I've had to do everything myself. Why would I ever trust anybody else? And that's a big issue I struggle with still. Yeah. And you can ask like Roy and everything like that. He's like, why didn't you talk to me about your mom and like how bad it's gotten? And I was like, I didn't want to bother you. And he's like, you're not bothering me. And I was like, you can't convince me that. I was like, I've spent the first 25 years of my life thinking that I'm a problem.
Right, yeah.
So, and then, what do I do here, man?
Yeah.
I ain't got no tools to work with.
It's such a big switch. It's like, oh.
It's night and day, yeah.
Yeah.
I wake up one day and all of a sudden I have like over 25 people that love me and actively will drop anything they're doing to take care of me. Like, no.
Yeah.
And, like, what am I supposed to think also? Because they're always going to want something in return. It's that expectancy.
Well, right, yeah. And that's why some people say that, like, the opposite of love is fear, and it's not true. The opposite of love is use. Love is you sacrificing yourself for the benefit of somebody else. Use is you sacrifice someone else for the benefit of yourself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of people, it's like, you do something nice, and then they expect something in return. It's not love.
No, and I think that's kind of what kind of threw off, I'm going to say him, but what threw him off is me taking him food and caring about him the way I do. Is I don't expect anything back. I just want him to know that he has somebody that cares. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I know that he gives to everybody else 24/7 and never has any him time. And I was like, dude, like, you deserve a moment's peace.
Yeah.
And whether it's me or somebody else, I don't care. Like, you just know that you deserve that.
Yeah. Yeah, but even with the love and use thing, I mean, the reason some people expect something in return, maybe not expect, but you want your behavior reciprocated if it's good.
Reciprocity is huge, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's how every single human relationship is built on.
Absolutely,
reciprocation.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, you don't want to be a doormat, but, in some cases it's like,
I was talking to Ashton
something
about that.
Here, yeah.
I told Ashton about that. I was like, I just want the reciprocation back, and he's like, I understand that, but you also need to be more understanding from a male perspective. Like, things are different, and we don't think the way you guys do. And I was like, I understand that. And he's like, you can understand it so far because you don't have the male thought process. And I was like, okay, that's true. And he's like, until you walk in a guy's shoes every day and have our thoughts, then you kind of don't get it. You can sympathize, but you don't really understand it. I'm like, yeah. So, wow.
Wow. All right. So we've been talking about your testimony, Collin. And I want to say, what would you tell anybody who is struggling with faith or going through something that you were going through? Like, what would you tell you before you found that faith? That maybe that can help somebody who is struggling with their faith or just relationship with God.
Don't isolate.
Yes.
Don't isolate, yeah. No, I mean, you have to have, just in life in general, you have to have your views challenged. You have to be able to verbalize what you think. Let's say, but yeah, just do not isolate. Go to your local parish, go to a church, talk to a priest, a pastor, something. Find someone who will listen to you. Like, really. And you have to have a family member. And if you don't have a family member, you should have a friend. If you don't have a friend, go to the church. Okay, if the church won't have you for whatever reason, or, go to your parish. If the parish won't have you for whatever reason, call a hospital. You know, someone will listen to you.
Yeah.
But just find someone who will listen. And that was my problem, was I didn't feel like I had someone who would listen. And, you know, you feel burdensome to other people, because then you like build it up and you think that you have this big problem, but if you're not willing to talk about it, you amplify that like massively. You amplify it to a point where it becomes a big thing if you won't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it even in
And then you volcano at people.
Right, yeah.
Lash out at people.
Yeah, it builds up
And then you start cutting people out of your lives left and right, and then wondering why you're alone.
Right. And then everyone just thinks you're rude and everything. It's like, no, there's something more to that. That's what even recently I had a situation happen. One of my buddies said something about it, and I'm like, you know, not condescending, but, you know, pointing out a behavior that they thought was rude or was improper. And I was like, well, yes, but you can clearly tell there's something else there. There's an underlying issue. Which doesn't excuse the behavior, but it brings information, brings, you know, the different perspective of it. So, yeah, don't isolate. Find someone who will listen to you, because there are people out there, and there are people who will give you an encouraging word and will spend time with you.
Yep.
So, certainly do that.
I think it's huge, too, and I've learned, I don't know about you guys and how you guys feel about this, but for me personally, I've learned a lot of people's anger stems from deep hurt.
Oh, God, yeah.
And so whenever I see somebody lash out, my immediate response to that is, hey. I usually ask them in a calm way, because I don't want to meet anger with anger, because nothing is, you know, solved with that. And I know I'm just different, and I don't want to yell at somebody who's yelling at me back. I'd rather just be like that gentle side of, you don't have to act like this. So, like, at work with my boss throwing, you know, fits like he does, I always ask him, like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And I always ask him in a calm way. I've never once gotten loud with him, and I refuse to. And I think that's so different, because when you have people fostered in an environment where it's just so negative, they're used to having that combative behavior back at them, that when they interact with somebody who's calm and gentle, their brain just goes like, and they don't know how to handle it. They're like, why aren't you getting in my face and yelling at me?
Yeah.
Because nothing gets solved that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, find someone, do something to fix the situation, but I mean, that's why in that case, find somebody, because you got a conflict. Conflict avoided is conflict amplified and magnified. So.
And you just continue to avoid, you're just going to.
Amplify it and magnify it further, so. And then you're going to get anxious, because you're like, well, how do I deal something this big when really it could have been dealt when it was this big? And yeah, I mean, that's why if something arises, you fix it there, or at least try to fix it then and there.
Stop running.
No, yeah, tackle it head on. Worst case scenario, you don't fix it within 5 minutes. Like, worst case, but at least you started, and you're not gonna put it to the side and not talk about it.
Yeah, and I think it's huge too. A lot of people like talk, right? And they communicate, but they only communicate to get a response. They don't communicate to comprehend. Yeah. And I feel like comprehension is just as big as communication. You can't have one without the other.
Oh, yeah.
I can explain to you all day long how to put an engine in a car, but if I'm not explaining it to a way that makes sense to you, you won't have any idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, and some people just need to have their thoughts voiced when they're dealing with something, because they don't have anyone to listen to them speak. And I think it was Carl Rogers, the psychotherapist, who said that most people can solve their own problems if they have someone to talk to.
Yes.
They can solve it themselves. They just need someone who will listen to their words so that they can verbalize and externalize what they're thinking. So, yeah, I just need to get it out there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why a lot of like talk therapy is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like, while some people, should be on medicine because it will help them with their daily, lives and everything like that, I feel like talk therapy is huge because, like you just said, Collin, a lot of people can solve their own problems.
Right, yeah.
They need that other person to be open and willing to listen, though.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like
push them along, give them a little courage.
Exactly. A lot of people our age, too, are just like, oh, yeah, I'm your friend. And they're like, they half listen.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
And
yeah. Yeah.
I pay attention to body language so much so that I've made it a rule now whenever I go out to eat with my friends that we won't have our phones.
Yeah.
I won't. And the only reason I'll keep my phone ringer on is for my mom to call.
Right.
But it's so huge to me whenever I sit down with somebody and they immediately hop down on their phone. I'm like, you don't want to be here. That's obvious to me. You're not mentally here. You're physically here, but mentally I don't know
Somewhere
where.
else.
Yeah. So I think it's huge that I'm like, I don't want to do it. If you don't want to dedicate time to actually spend with me, that's fine. We can talk and text at home. I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So.
Well, I mean, even it's like people who want to talk to you, and no. I've known in some cases people have said to me like, "Oh, if you ever need to talk," and then it's like self-righteous projection of like themselves putting this charade up, and then you try to, and then after like 2 days, gone.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for me to realize that they're not being genuine until I have to reach out, and then I don't get that response, and I'm like, okay. And I know from there, right? It's kind of like I have to find out for myself the hard way, which kind of sucks, but at least I know then, right?
Yeah, like you're learning it.
Yeah.
So that's
and
good.
I have this thing where I heard it a few years ago where it's like, I don't trust people, I trust their patterns. Mm-hmm. And after a certain while, from dealing with all the disappointment I've experienced, I'm like, listen, dude, I was like, I've been disappointed so much to the point now where I expect it of people, so you're going to have to really show me that you're not going to disappoint me. And like I tell everybody, listen, I will trust you and love you no matter what because God wants me to, but that doesn't mean I have to keep you in my life anymore, but I will pray for you.
Yeah, and even the pattern thing, that's kind of the idea of belief, biblical, like religiously, is that it's not just something you profess. You don't just say it. And it's kind of like criticism with a lot of people who say, "Oh, I believe in God," and then you see their behavior and you're like, "Really? Like, you say that and that's what you do?" And like, belief is far more, or even what you say is a fraction of who you are. Like, what you carry out day in, day out speaks far more volume.
Yeah. Especially, like, through someone's actions. Because I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, by their fruit you'll know them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I actually read that scripture last night. It's funny you were talking about that.
I heard someone say that as it pertained to faith, it's you live out and profess your faith on a daily basis, and sometimes you use words.
Yeah, I was reading that scripture last night. So I was reading that, and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because, I could tell everybody all day long, be like, I'm going to go to church, I'm going to do this whole religion thing. But it's not about religion. It's about that relationship. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, especially when they're non-believers. They're like, oh, well, you just go to church. I'm like, no, I don't just go to church. I'm like, have you never been? They're like, well, no, why would I want to? And I'm like, oh, so it's really cool. And I have a window of opportunity there. And I'm like, you're going to sit down and be quiet and listen, or you can just leave.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't have to listen to me. Everybody has the option to walk away. I was like, if you want to, I was like, I will be more than happy to teach you.
Well, yeah, I think it's both, because some people say like, well, I'm not religious, but religion is the habit of virtue of giving to God what He is due, and that's what it is. So I think a lot of people are religious in life, but it's, what are you religious to?
Yeah.
So some people are religious to their job, some people are religious to a hobby, but when you establish your religious pattern on giving due to God what He is due, then that's the way to properly orient it. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a religious aspect to it, but it seems like it's been used as a dirty word the past few years here, that people have been like, I don't want to use that word, but I think everyone is religious to something.
Yeah, I think it's just people use the word religious and they automatically tie in, that you have to act a certain way.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, there's a way you can,
there's nuance.
Yeah, and you can portray yourself in a certain way that, non-believers would be like, oh, well, you're just a Jesus freak. And I'm like, if you have to call me that, so be it.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's my argument of, I know where I'm going after, I leave this earth, but do you? And that's my whole thing I tell people. Right,
yeah. And, well, that's why it's important to be able to formulate your faith and your thoughts so that you can communicate that to somebody. I've had people at work ask me, like, oh, are you religious? And I was like, well, I don't think that's for me to answer. I think that's for you to answer. And they asked me, do you believe in God? Or are you a Christian? I'm like, well, you tell me, because I don't want to say, yes, I believe. And you're like, well, you've done this, you've done that, or whatever. You tell me, do I orient my life in a way that you think speaks volumes to that particular idea and belief? Mm-hmm. Most of the time they say yes. So,
yeah.
But I mean, let them be the judge of it. Let's see how your works and actions, move in life. So.
Yeah. And I don't like the hypocrisy that comes with a lot of it too, because I see younger women my age and younger than I constantly be like, they get scrutinized for how they dress, and I'm like, I get it, but you have to understand that if you're going to portray yourself in a certain way, of course you're going to be looked down on that. And then they always have the same excuse that I've heard so many times that, oh, well, don't act like you're without sin. And I was like, I understand that, and I'm not saying that I'm not. But if you're going to portray yourself in a certain manner, you can't get upset when people make assumptions.
Sure, yeah. And a part of hypocrisy, too, hypocrisy isn't, like, professing something and then going against it. Like, you'll stumble against things that you don't think are correct, but it's knowing it's wrong, saying it's wrong, and then willing and being like, but for me, it's not.
I'm the exception, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Think anything about that? You have anything to add?
I don't.
You gonna continue wearing short shorts?
I'm gonna continue to wear the short length I want.
You know what? If you do, you gotta get like a, what was it? What would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do? A sticker on the short shorts?
Yeah. Yep.
I debate on getting one of those Jesus stickers that said I saw that and put it on the back of my car.
Kiana got one of those.
I know she has one of those. I've seen it. It's an air freshener, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, I got her a little sticker for her rear view mirror that says Jesus loves you. She's like, I love that, because she got in my car and seen mine. And I was like, I got you one. I just gotta find out what I did with it. I'm always getting her stuff like that, forgetting where I put it. And then I just forget to give it to her. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm frantically looking for something I bought you like 4 months ago. And she's like, huh? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, okay.
That's you.
Yeah, it's me.
That's you with the Christmas presents, yeah.
Merry Christmas, Zach.
I still have a Christmas present I haven't given to my brother from another mother, James.
Oh my goodness. Just give it to him this year for Christmas.
I might.
His birthday's in November.
Hey, there you go.
At this point, might as well hold out.
Much.
Is there anything you would like to add before we end this podcast episode? Any of y'all?
I'm good.
I don't think so, unless you guys have any other questions.
I think that would be it. Well, thank you, Collin, for joining in on this podcast episode.
Thank you for having me.
I love having you here, brother. And thank you all for watching and listening. We hope you all have a blessed day. So stay holy and stay wacky. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Stay wacky?
Yeah, stay wacky.
Stay wacky.
All right.